It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Cause that's the bottom line. Cause Stone Cold said so.
And so, goodbye. And good night. Bang!
Settle! Because I'm better than you, and you know it. Yes, sir!
Welcome to Off the Mats with Alex Lowe's and Josh Silverberg.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back live here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Welcome to another episode of the only wrestling talk show here on the network. This is Off the Mat. I can't say every single Saturday because we are now down to our final 2 Saturdays. Welcome back here again, of course, with my co-hosts, as I like to call them, my Death Triangle group. We'll start first with Mr. Alex Lowe's down in, I guess, rainy Florida today. How you doing, Alex?
It's been raining for the last couple of hours. It stormed really bad when I woke up at 7 a.m. this morning. But we're here. It's going to be a great show. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to get through. And stick with us here because we have a great episode for you.
Well, I will say this, and I'm going to introduce my other tag team partner here, and I could tell you, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I would take the rain over the snow any day of the week, that's for sure, because I'm tired of shoveling my house at this point. That is the one and only Mr. Lyle Gillen, and Lyle could oblige to that because he has seen my house, he has seen my driveway, and shoveling that driveway is a pain in the ass. But Lyle, how you doing, man?
I'm doing wonderful, and yes, your driveway is ginormous. Just wanted to say, if you're out there and you're a wrestling fan, join Mania Club. They do a great job with charity for Connor's Cure, so go check them out on Facebook.
Love it, love it. Well, I wanted to give a little ode to a man who is basically a guy that Alex looks up to. That is, if you could see the shirt, Alex, I think you see it. You know who that is.
Maranello.
That is Mamma Mia Maranello. He was no longer in NXT, but he is still doing announcing. We have so much to get to. Is our special guest here, by the way? We're not.
Yeah, he's here.
Okay, so we'll get to him in a second. Let me get through to what we need to do. And, of course, before we do all that, Alex, I know there's a little bit of somber news that you wanted to share. We wanted to give a moment of silence to the person that you are going to allude to.
Yeah, so the ACW promoter and He was the ACW promoter for American Combat Wrestling in Newport Richey, Florida, and also the promoter. He was a promoter, and he was in charge of the venue Golfview Event Center. And he was the first person who gave me a chance at my career, who really gave me a chance to do backstage promos for American Combat Wrestling. His name is Heath Snyder, and he passed away due to COVID-19. And he was just one of the most down-to-earth people, one of the most respected people for ACW, for WWN, the World Wrestling Network. So I just want to take a moment of silence for him, and thought my thoughts and prayers go out to his family at this difficult time. Also to his son Kyle. I know he's going through a really rough time right now. He's in a really dark place, but I really hope they can get through this. It's just going to take time for them.
Okay, we're going to give a moment of silence right now, quick. All right. So, we don't mean to start off on a somber note. Before we get to our special guest, I know he's patiently waiting, and we want to thank him, of course. He has such a busy schedule. Let's talk about our app quick. If you don't have our app by now, well, you're missing out on a ton of stuff because, first off, the app is free. That's number one. And nothing in this world is free anymore. I'm trying to get my camera so I can face me straight. There we go. It's because I got a new dog this week, and she runs and she knocks my table over. So it's like I got to try to figure this out now. Download our app. If you have an iPhone, go to the Android store, type in WWSRN. if you have an Android like myself and Lyle do, Alex, you got to get on an Android group. Haha, just kidding. Your iPhone is perfect. Go to Worldwide Sports. Type that in on the Google Play Store. Download our app. Check out our articles. Check out our show content. If you missed our show, you can re-listen to it. You can watch clips of it. Check on, like I said, show schedule, everything about the program. And check out our professionally done website, worldwidesportsradio.com. Really quick, you're going to want to listen to the Weekend Crunch tonight. I had a screaming match with Errol last night on the Weekend Crunch. I never got mad at him like that before last night during on the show, and I did. I flipped. I almost cursed on the air. That was terrible. I never do that. He's so annoying with certain things, so I had to just do that. And again, like I said, check us out. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, YouTube. We are all over the place. And, of course, you can see on the bottom of our ticker our contact information if you want to get in touch with the show, ask questions, everything like that. Please get involved. We want you to get involved. And, again, don't forget, we have 2 more Saturday shows. We have today, and then we have next week for that. But I know our guest is patiently waiting. I don't want to butcher the last name, so if I do, he could correct me on it. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the owner of one of the top wrestling news sites out there in the world today. He is a guy that we are so happy to have on. He does so much work. He knows so much about the business. Ladies and gentlemen, the owner of wrestling.com, Mr. Raj Giri. Raj, how you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you? You got the last name right.
Yes. Oh, man. Thank God, because if I didn't, these two would have been so annoying about it.
All good. How are you guys doing today?
We're good, man.
We're doing well.
Good.
Doing well, man.
Thanks for joining us, man. I know, like I said, we had Leo Rush on last week. We have you on this week, and then we have one more Saturday show before we move to Tuesdays with Shane Taylor from Ring of Honor next week. But first off, Raj, before we begin, we want to ask you, how are you doing? How is your family doing during COVID-19 and everything? That clearly you're on the go every time.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing pretty good. It was a rough while there, just getting adjusted. But, we're kind of in our own groove. My wife, she's got the vaccine already. She got the second dose.
Awesome.
And so I feel like just with all that, we have people in our family that are now vaccinated, so it just feels like things are starting to move toward a more normal environment again. So hopefully, keeping the fingers crossed.
I hear
wrestling
you.
Shows with at least half full arenas by the end of the year, if not full.
Hopefully, I mean, I'm getting my second dosage on Tuesday, so I mean, we're like you said, you made it perfectly. We're hoping that we could get back to some normalcy, get some wrestling shows back, because the fans are needed. I mean, that's what makes the wrestling business special. Yeah. I mean, we all know this. Raj, I want to ask you the first question, and it's in regard. We're going to talk about WWE, AEW. We talked off the air about it, you and I. I've been constantly bothering you, so I apologize in advance.
No, anytime.
We want to get into the kind of the elephant in the room, and that's WWE. That's a program that is so, at times, controversial with this program, with us, because the three of us, I think, I don't want to speak on these guys, but they'll probably agree with me. WWE is kind of in in our opinion, kind of a down phase, because you're seeing AEW, you're seeing New Japan, and all these programs that are really growing and getting better, and then WWE feels like it's stuck in the middle. What are your thoughts on WWE programming in the middle? And if you could ask us, what do you think WWE needs to do to change that narrative of trying to get the older fan base back into wanting to reach their program again?
Well, one of the big things that they can't do, but would help immensely, is to make Raw 2 hours again. But they can't with the TV deals and what USA expects for the ratings for that third hour, how much they're paying. That's like $60 million or $80 million a year for basically for each hour of Raw. Because that third hour is killer, and that show just drags almost every week. And I don't see how you get new fans into the show when you have a 3 hour show. So many of the matches are the same, repeated week after week, that have no meaning. I mean, last summer you had Andrade and Angel Garza facing the Street Profits for I think it was 17 weeks or something, some variation of that match. And now we're seeing it, with the New Day versus Retribution. Before that, we were seeing it with the New Day versus the Hurt Business. and so many others where they just repeat the same matches over and over. It doesn't matter who wins or who loses. So it's like, why am I getting myself invested in this? Now, the one thing they've been doing great is Roman Reigns and his stuff on SmackDown. But outside of that, it's just like, there's just nothing exciting and interesting. And, if you want to get in new fans, we've seen this time and time again, that when you see real upswings in the business, you have hot characters. And part of that's just letting them be themselves, being unique. And part of that is doing your own promos and not having to go off the script and just, riffing, just really being yourself or being that character. And you're not seeing that. It doesn't feel organic now. It feels too cleanliness, too clean, too scripted, too sanitized. And it just makes for an unexciting product. So there's a lot. That
it's a laundry list, man.
All right.
It really is.
You need to create those larger-than-life superstars. That's where WWE has always gotten hot, and they haven't gotten hot in over 20 years.
You go, Lyle.
So, what do you think about how the NHL is going to be moving to USA Network, and they have the Wednesday night rivalry, which happens every Wednesday on NBC Sports Network currently. When they move to USA Network, how do you expect this to affect NXT?
You know what? With the Peacock deal, they're more in bed with WWE than ever before now. So I could see them probably putting the NHL games on Peacock as opposed to moving NXT. WWE, I mean, that's one thing. With their ratings falling year after year, but because they're so in bed with NBC, they're going to be fine for a while, even though the ratings keep dropping. They're in no danger. So I don't see it impacting it really. I see them almost. If this Peacock deal didn't happen, I'd expect them to have moved NXT to a different night. But since this happened, it's WWE is more important to them than ever.
Yeah, that's true.
Alex?
So when having a platform like Wrestling Inc. to share with wrestling fans, what is the most important detail when writing articles for the page?
Accuracy and making sure, especially when there's serious news items. Like, I don't know if you've seen, but like today, Lee Cole has been tweeting stuff about his brother Tom. Like, that's something we can't post right now until we have verified the details behind it. We can't just go off of tweets for something like that. And so, making sure, and we're always hiring new writers. We have a lot of writers that have been there a long, long time, but we're also bringing in new writers, making sure that they understand those rules and how it works and follow a code of conduct. So, I mean, that's always the biggest thing, is just not crap in the bed.
Easier said than done, right, Raj?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Especially in wrestling.
You just want to make sure it's accurate. No, Raj is right. You want to make sure, because if you put something out there, it's out there. Mm-hmm. And if it gets retracted, it makes you, as a organization, of course, you own Wrestling Inc. So for you, with something like that, you want to make sure you have character and credibility. Right. With your website and with your business that you're doing. I want to stick with WWE really quick. With what NXT is doing, I know Lyle brought it up before, AEW just keeps thumping them in the ratings. And it's a constant barrage of, you see the numbers drastically differentiate every week. And it's almost like there's times when they're kind of close, Raj, and then there's times when they're just, like this past week, I think it was what, Lyle? 774 to I think 558,000. I think it was.
Something like that. Something along the lines of that.
It's getting insane to the point where, what is it that one NXT needs to do? Obviously, the obvious answer would be move nights, but what's something else that they need to do to try to catch up with this? Because I think they've only beaten them, I think, 2 or 3 times in the ratings war since this whole thing started. I mean, what is it that they're missing and they need to do? Because AEW is bringing in new partners every single week.
Yeah, and a couple of things with AEW, the new partners haven't really helped. Their ratings were down this week. Obviously, there were the impeachment hearings, but most of those hearings that did the big ratings on cable news weren't up in the time slots that were against NXT and Dynamite. And the Kenta match that they had this past Wednesday was the lowest rated quarter on the show. And so, those partnerships are great for wrestling fans, but as far as bringing in a new audience, it doesn't really mean anything if they don't know who that is. And most fans outside of our bubble don't know who Kenta is, or if they do, they know him as Hideo Itami. But for NXT, I mean, you just look at Dynamite and you look at NXT, and NXT, just the presentation. And again, in the wrestling bubble, NXT with the action and everything, the matches are usually great. So that's great for their bubble of fans. But if you're trying to bring in new fans, it looks dreary. It looks like, it's in this really small warehouse, and they're just so obsessed with just black and gold that there's like no color. It's not lively. Whereas you look at Dynamite and, it's colorful. It looks exciting. The presentation is just, when they had fans, it was my favorite presentation in all of wrestling right now. And so I think that's one thing is, really upgrading. And I'm not saying do the Thunderdome. It should have its own unique look and feel, but make it lively. And the second thing, when NXT has beaten AEW in total viewers several times, but only once in 18 to 49, and that was last year. It was starting to get really tight in last December, so December of 2019, and NXT was actually beating AEW more than they were losing. And during that time, what was happening was they made NXT look like a strong third brand. They won the Survivor Series. They were appearing on the main roster shows. They weren't losing. It looked like it was an equal to Raw and SmackDown. And since then, they've made it look so far like it's not on the same level. The guys aren't, when they're included in the Royal Rumble, they're thrown out pretty quick.
I mean, Raj,
it's back to where it was.
They didn't even put them in Survivor Series this year, which
right.
I thought was insane.
Yeah.
I spoke while you were on the show, but I spoke to Alex about that. I can't believe they did not include them when you're in a rivalry. How do you, after they were the team that won Survivor Series last year, and then this year they're not in it at all? That makes no sense.
Yeah, we asked Triple H about that on that media call before that. Before that takeover that was happening, gosh, when was that? I think it was December, so it was after Survivor Series when we asked why they didn't do that. Triple H was saying it was because of the COVID safety reasons, because the NXT talents are more with the PC students, and
sure,
and so that's why. But I don't know if I totally buy that. I mean, just watching the show, you could tell that there's not. Vince doesn't see NXT on the level of Raw and SmackDown, and he has a point. Raw and SmackDown do 3 times the ratings that NXT does, and NXT keeps falling. And part of that, I think, this Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic has been just a ratings disaster, and they just keep falling with that. So, yeah, I mean, I think the 2 big things is making NXT look like it's on the level again, and changing up the presentation.
So we touched on it for a second about the AEW and New Japan partnership, but 2-part question. One, is Wrestle Dynasty still planned to happen? And if it is, will that be the first time we see AEW and New Japan talent meeting? After, Kenta.
Right. I mean, it's so tough to say because, right now, just going to Japan, you need a quarantine for 2 weeks. That's time you're missing from your own show. So you don't want your top guys, missing your show. So, I think everything's up in the air, but right now, clearly that door is open. So, so again, for fans in New Japan, now all of a sudden Okada versus Omega again, definitely seems like a possibility. And
you see Lala's face when you said that, Raj.
Yeah, like
Okada Omega 5.
I mean, Raj, you're talking,
doing an MSG show.
That's what I'm saying. You're talking Madison Square Garden. Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada.
ROH sold out Madison Square Garden with New Japan. I'm sure AEW.
We were there for that. Lyle and I, we were there. Were you at that show?
At the MSG show?
Yeah.
No, I was at NXT that night.
Okay.
That was against NXT, right?
No, NXT was
Hall of Fame.
That was Hall of Fame. So you were at the Hall of Fame show then.
What was that? I think I was at MLW. This was in New York, right?
This was in New York. So. Yeah. NXT Loud and I, we went to NXT Friday, which I think we could all. And I don't want to interrupt the question, but I also think the best match. We went to Mania, Supercard, NXT. I thought the best match of the whole weekend was probably Cole Gargano. At TakeOver, but the best show overall was the G1 Supercard show. I thought it was.
Yeah, I thought it was great. When I watched it back, it felt like ROH was starting to really get some momentum, and man, how quickly that they've fallen because
they ruined themselves at that show.
Yeah,
they shot themselves in the foot at that show so badly.
Yeah, and if Sinclair really wanted to up their presentation and production, because ROH had that same NXT feel, the dark, hard to bring in a mainstream fan that doesn't already watch wrestling, and if they just upped it to look like what the AEW show and really bring in the talent, there might not be an AEW, and ROH might be kind of in the position AEW is in now, but that didn't happen.
Alex?
So, I've seen many different articles on Wrestling Inc. website, including big articles about Roman Reigns, different topics. So my question for you is, what is the history behind Wrestling Inc.? Like, how did that start for you? How did that come into play?
So I started it way back in the day. So I don't know how young you guys are, but it might be like you guys are probably like really small. I started in '96. It started as a newsletter and there was this site called GeoCities. They gave out free websites, and I was in engineering school. I hated engineering, and I was like, I need to learn something else. So my girlfriend, my wife now, she was out of town one weekend. I'm like, I'm just going to learn. I'm not going to go out. I'm just going to learn how to make a website. I signed up for a GeoCities account. I was getting way back into wrestling. I was a fan in the 80s. Started losing a little interest in the early to mid 90s, and then I was starting to get back into it. So I was like, all right, this is a topic I know well. I'm just going to blog my thoughts or write a column, as they called it back then. And then it just started picking up steam, and I was just obsessed with making it look better and getting more traffic, and it just started to grow. So in '97, so next year will be 25 years.
Wow!
97,
Congratulations.
I got the domain.
That's
thanks.
awesome, man. Congratulations, Raj.
Thanks. Yeah. So '97, I got the domain, and it was always meant to be just a hobby on the side and just something to show on my resume when I'm, applying for other jobs. And it just got bigger and bigger to where now it's a full-time gig, and we have like 23 people on our staff between podcasters and writers and people that handle social media and things like that. And it's just such an awesome job. It's stressful because you never get time off, but it's awesome.
There's always something interesting, and that's why we wanted to get you on, because there's so many different websites out there, like Ringside News and
Sportskeeda.
Yeah, you know what I mean. There's so many, and your site is one of the most credible ones out there, and you're also one of the biggest ones that are growing. You said it yourself. I mean, you're growing every single week. It's a full-time gig now, which I don't know. Like I said, you didn't anticipate that. I don't think at the time,
Right,
but it's awesome. I really want to get your thoughts on this, because this was a topic that the three of us discussed on the show last week. It's about the Royal Rumble. And the Women's Royal Rumble, I think we all agreed, was the right call with Bianca Belair. It's the Men's Royal Rumble match we can't seem to see eye to eye.
Yeah.
Because there's some of us here that think Edge was the right call. There's some of us here that don't understand it, that they missed an opportunity to build another superstar, and they go backwards. What were your thoughts when Edge won the Rumble, and do you think it was the right decision on them making Edge the winner?
I think for where the storylines were that day, it was definitely the right decision. I would have preferred that they started building up someone younger, or a younger star back like last August, to have that momentum going into the Rumble and then win the Rumble, and then have that steam behind them going into WrestleMania. But they didn't have that. So with that storyline, Edge cut that killer promo. Him versus Roman Reigns feels like the biggest match they can do right now because of that, and Roman Reigns is so hot. But yeah, man, like they've been beating Daniel Bryan every week. If back in August they started a storyline where Daniel Bryan was saying he wants that title back, he needs that title back, for his child or whatever, and build that storyline. He's just getting wins and building momentum, and Reigns is dodging him, and then he wins the Royal Rumble. That would have been awesome, but they didn't do that, and he was cold. And Cesaro, they had only been building him a couple weeks, and we had first reported that Cesaro's contract was actually coming up after WrestleMania, so it made sense why they couldn't push him too hard. And then he's since re-signed. But so with where they were that day, because they haven't been building new stars, with where they were that day, I thought it was the right move.
Really quick, I just want to add one last thing. Would Edge maybe facing Finn Balor or carrying Cross for the NXT Championship be a better call? You think that him facing? I know you said Roman. Would that be the better idea? Maybe.
I don't think so. Just because NXT is so low on the pecking order that it's not as big of a match, and WrestleMania is where you want your biggest matches. And I think the one that will get the most attention, that will get the more. I mean, when I look on the website, an NXT article, just in general, like a match announced for NXT that night doesn't really do much, whereas Dynamite will do better. Raw usually does the best, even though it's the most panned show of all of them.
We don't hate Raw here. We don't hate it.
Very much.
Especially Lyle. Lyle can't sit through it at all. It's awful.
It's tough. When weeks where I'm not doing the post-show podcast, I don't watch it live. I go back and, kind of fast forward through it.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, it's a tough 3 hours, and you see the ratings. I mean, they're dropping to really bad levels right now. This is supposed to be their hottest period, and they did 1.7 million viewers this past Monday. And Royal Rumble to WrestleMania is supposed to be where they get their biggest growth. They peak a couple weeks after WrestleMania with the draft, and then ratings start falling, and then they keep falling until the fall, and then until the end of summer they go up, and then they fall big time when football comes back. So if this is the high that we're seeing right now, it's going to be scary in the fall.
Again, we're with Raj Giri from WrestlingInc.com, the owner of the website as well. Lyle, you're up, man.
I want to ask you about Thunder Rosa. A while back, there were a lot of rumors about her contract ending. It turned out that she was still contracted with NWA for a while. What are you hearing about what she might do after her contract's up? Is she going to stay in AEW, go to WWE?
Well, I think she's made it pretty clear that she's not staying with NWA when her contract's up. I mean, with the way AEW's pushing her, she's been doing just awesome on that show. It just seems like a no-brainer to me. I could see WWE wanting to make a play, but I think just she's in that environment. She's being featured, so I can't see her not going to AEW.
Alex?
I think that.
Go, Lyle. Sorry.
So what makes
since she joined the show, the women's division has been completely different, a complete 180 of what it was before that, and I think that shows how important she is to that program.
Oh yeah, for sure. Her and Britt Baker are the stars of that division, and they're carrying it. I think Hikaru Shida is great, but she doesn't have that charisma, in my opinion, like Britt Baker or even Rio before she had to before travel issues stopped her from appearing, but. So, yeah, I think Thunder Rosa is a no-brainer for them to do what they can to keep her.
Alex, you're up, man.
So what makes Wrestling Inc. different than other wrestling news sites when coming up with ideas? Because we see a lot of different articles that get pieced together, and one of my favorite articles that I've seen that you guys wrote was about Roman Reigns switching into his new persona. So I just want to get your thoughts on that, like what ideas you guys come up with.
Yeah, so you have certain articles like when a match is announced for Raw that every site is going to have that. We try to come up with our own unique content as well, and also we have again 25 years of consistency. Like if you go to Wrestling Inc. a day later, there's going to be a ton of articles that that are new that you haven't seen yet. And we do daily interviews, and we really have been consistent with that. And so, and we get some weird ones. So, we had WWE lawyer Jerry McDivitt, on, and Andrew Yang, and some people you wouldn't expect. We have one of the stars of Young Rock that's premiering on Tuesday that we're going to have in this next week. So we've had actors, politicians, and of course wrestlers. We had the Bushwhackers last week; they were great. So the daily interviews, interesting content, and staying consistent. And I think if you go to a restaurant and the food tastes different each time, you're not going to keep going. But no. that you like, if they're consistent year after year, it's. You keep going back. So I think that's one of our big things.
Actually,
Raj,
one of the things that caught my eye was Wrestling Inc. has their own podcast. I think you guys have your own podcast. You guys do?
Yeah, we got a couple. So we have the daily one that our managing editor Nick Hausman does, and those are right now. That's only in podcast form. It's not video, and so that's the one where we have daily interviews. And then we do a podcast myself, Matt Morgan, who used to be with TNA and WWE, and Glenn Rubenstein. We do it after Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays after the shows. So on Wednesday it's Alfred Conway, Justin LeBar, and Matt Morgan, and Friday it's Glenn, Matt Morgan, and Issa. But Matt is on usually every night, unless he's a mayor as well, so sometimes he has other commitments. But
I know we've had Justin on our show in the past, Lyle. I believe we had Justin LeBar. We had Justin LeBar on our show.
Did. Yeah, we had
Justin LeBar on the show.
Issue.
There's before we let you go, because we know how busy you are, we want to thank you, of course, for joining us today. There is one question I want Lyle to ask. Alex, I'm sure you're curious about it too. It's about a certain former Elite member, and I want Lyle to ask the question because we want to hear what you're hearing and what is being said. So Lyle, you can ask it.
So it could become very controversial if they do this, but with Bullet Club, the old Bullet Club that they used from when Kenny Omega was the leader, is kind of re-emerging a little bit in AEW. And Marty got released. What is their relationship with the Elite and Marty?
I mean, they're still close. I think they would love to bring Marty in. I think just the circumstances, they're very wary. I mean, very in tune with those kind of scandals. And the fact that ROH let him go and AEW picking him up, I think that would be a bad look. So I don't see him going to AEW. I could see possibly NXT picking him up, or even New Japan. I don't know, time heals all wounds, and after a while I could see it getting to where it's safe, where AEW would want to re-sign him. But right now, I don't see him showing up in AEW next.
Alex, is there one more thing you wanted to ask Raj before we let Raj go?
Yeah, so what new ideas do you plan to bring into Wrestling Inc. in 2021?
We're looking to do a lot more video. With everyone's internet connection around the world being prepared now to handle Zoom calls constantly. So we're looking to do a lot more video content. Give the site a little bit of a facelift, because the look and feel has been the same for a few years now. And I hate when sites change completely and all of a sudden there's stuff floating all around the screen. So we're going to, kind of still keep the basic format the same, but just pretty it up a little bit because, against the consistency. And, and then tons more interviews. Just keeping trucking.
So you're going to be our new insider, right?
Why not?
Well, listen, first up, the three of us want to thank you for coming on with us today, Raj. We know how
Thank
busy you are, man. You're so informative. Your site is informative. All your podcast stuff. I've watched the show many times with Matt Morgan as well. It's really good stuff. You keep everybody up to date on the business of wrestling. How can the fans reach you out on social media and everything like that going forward? Sure.
Follow Wrestling Inc. at Wrestling Inc. Check out WrestlingInc.com if you don't already. Myself personally, you could follow me on Twitter at Raj Giri _303. If you're going to follow one of the accounts, follow Wrestling Inc. over me. I don't tweet all that often. Just keep checking out WrestlingInc.com.
Awesome. Raj, thank you so much for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen from WrestlingInc.com, the owner of it. Appreciate it, man. Have a good rest of your weekend. Stay safe. And keep doing what you're doing, man. You're doing an unbelievable job, and so is your website. We appreciate it. We want you to come back on in the future when we move to Tuesday night, so don't be a stranger.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks.
All right. Thanks Raj. Take care.
Right,
appreciate it. Raj Giri, ladies and gentlemen, the owner of WrestlingInc.com. There's a lot to digest with this, guys.
There's a lot.
This is now, the second week in a row. We've an unbelievable interview. I know there's a lot to take in.
Oh, yeah.
Alex, I'll start with you first. What did you take out of this interview that you heard Raj say that was sticking to you?
So the one thing that stuck with me is when he explained about how Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, they don't compare to NXT or the other big shows. And it made perfect sense as to what he touched on. Monday Night Raw and SmackDown have just been going down for the past couple years. Like, when I started watching SmackDown and Raw, like 2012, 2011, it had a bigger viewership. It had a bigger audience. Now we just don't see that anymore.
Lyle, what stuck with you the most out of this interview? Because I know there's a lot to take in. I know a lot of what he said you loved.
I was very, very happy that for someone to agree that NXT is dull, it is boring, it is not a good show weekly. I've been saying that for a very long time. They need a change. And they said it before the pandemic. They need to go to arenas. They need to give off that vibe that they are a big, important show. Mm-hmm. And they never did that. COVID definitely would have stopped those plans, but I really want them to go and travel once the pandemic is over, because they desperately need that.
For me, what stuck out to me the most is this. He said what I said about why Edge won the Rumble. He understood why it happened. Mm-hmm. And he made a great point. And I said this too, I think, a week ago. I said Roman Reigns is the hottest thing going in WWE right now. Whether you like it or you don't, it is. And that's why they had to – he said it, in a year where they're going to have limited fans, they have to hit it hard with this main event. They have to get this right. And you're getting two major superstars. But he also agreed to the point with what Lyle has said, and Alex to an extent you too, is they need to start building superstars, but this might not been the time to really be able to do it because of the situation that they're in. Where next year when they're in Dallas, they could do it probably.
If you look at the Raw Elimination Chamber, it's all old talent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there are so many other guys they could have in that match.
Oh,
just
definitely,
show their
by
skills
far,
and show what they can do and give them more of a spotlight. That company does not understand that you can lose a match and still be put over, and they refuse to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, he said it. Yeah, they do refuse, and he said it that WWE is in limbo right now with their viewership and their ratings and stuff like that, and it's become a mess at times, and nobody knows the route they're going. He also made a great point about the viewership. Even with AEW beating NXT in the viewership, it's still not getting where they want it to be. I mean, I texted you this, Lyle. I thought they would break 1 million for the Brody Lee tribute show. They almost did, but they still didn't. And I thought that was going to be where they would. And I think that just shows where wrestling is right now, where they need to get it hit hard on that viewership. And there's certain programs, like you said, like Vince McMahon is kind of pushing people away from the business. And it's just disheartening and it's disturbing, and it should not. He's hurting for other businesses, Vince. And it's a really disappointing thing.
What needs to happen, and it'll be better for NXT, it'll be better for AEW, it'll be better for professional wrestling because it'll make the product look better. NXT needs to be on Tuesdays permanently. They'll probably get closer to 1 million views each week, and AEW will probably get around the same, maybe a little bit more. It'll be a much, much, much better look at who watches the show because both products are good. In-ring wise, I think NXT is probably better than AEW, to be honest. I think their in-ring product is probably better. Just the overall show is a little dull and gives off a dull vibe.
Yeah.
But I think they need to do something to get rejuvenated. We saw what they did a couple of weeks when they were on on USA Network and had no competition. We saw what they did when they were on Tuesdays and had no competition. The same crowd watches both shows. I'll say about 1.2 million people equally watch both shows after people watch AEW and then go to watch the DVR version of.
They go on the network and
NXT,
they watch it recorded,
and vice versa. So they are both getting viewership. That's how come the actual viewership number does not matter to them, because when you actually look at who is really watching the product, you really can't tell. You don't know who's going to be your live on Fridays when they update and put AEW Dynamite on there. Can't see that. You can't see who watches on DVR. You can't see who watches on the network. They're getting the viewership number. It's just it's not live.
For sure. All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, Alex, I want to get your thoughts when we come back about this for sure. We'll let you start first when we come back. We got to preview Vengeance Day. NXT TakeOver is tomorrow. We will try to get in AEW. I know we went a little bit over with Raj, but it was worth it, I think. So when we come back, this is Off the Mat on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We'll be right back.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Everybody's got a price.
Rest in peace.
Welcome back to Off the Mat with Alex Lowe's and Josh Silverberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back to the second half of Off the Mat here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Myself, Josh Silverberg, of course, with Alex Lowe's and Lyle Gillen. And I know, Alex, before we went to break, you wanted to say your thoughts on the Raj interview and everything like that before we get to previewing NXT TakeOver tomorrow night.
So one of the things I love that Raj touched on was about NXT, about NXT's tournament that they had for the last couple weeks, the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. It made perfect sense what he said. He said with them pushing the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic and having the same stars on every week, NXT is continuing to be dull. Like the product is not getting as much ratings, and I think NXT needs to switch things up. And he made perfectly clear points on that.
For sure, he really did, and it shows that. I mean, look, you want to get creative out there. Look, let the Grizzled Young Veterans win the tournament. Let's build some tag teams in this division. You're bringing teams over from the NXT. You're bringing people from the NXT UK roster, which is great. Imperium, the Grizzled Young Vets, Pete
VSK.
Dunne, I mean, let's bring some people over and let's expand on this roster.
Exactly.
I gotta say
agree.
one thing though.
Go.
NXT fans, I'm going to reword that. The WWE stans who only watch WWE and love them and hate on everything else, they will love MSK. But they wrestle the same style as the Young Bucks, but those same fans who hate on everything else and love the MSK are crapping all over the Young Bucks all the time.
Which I don't know why you would ever crap all over the Young Bucks. I don't know why.
Because they are a fan base that hates everything that's not WWE.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
And when huge stars don't want to go there, and then they become huge stars outside of WWE, they hate them. That's why they hate Kenny Omega. That's why they hate the Young Bucks. That's why they hate AEW, because they are making stars without WWE, and they are afraid.
All right, guys, we got to get into it. Let's get into previewing NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day, it's called?
Yep, Vengeance Day.
Vengeance Day. We'll start with the main event because we want to get the main matches to talk about. And the main event, I would imagine this is going to be the main event.
Finn Balor versus Pete Dunne.
Finn Balor versus Pete Dunne for the NXT Heavyweight Championship, which is going to be phenomenal. And I would imagine the winner of that match is probably going to start a feud with Karrion Kross. I would think after he's done with after Kross is done with what's his name from who's the Cruiserweight champion over there? Alex, what's his name? Or you know his name?
Elf.
He's part of Legado Fantasma.
I can't pronounce his name.
Which is ridiculous. They should have had that match, by the way, on the TakeOver card. I don't know how they're putting it on Wednesday night instead. I think it's stupid. They should have put that match on the TakeOver card. I think they missed the boat with that. But I digress. Who are we picking? Alex, I'll start with you first. Who are we picking, and where do you think they go with the winner in this one?
So I think the winner is going to be Finn Balor because even though Pete Dunne's a skilled grappler and he's able to match with Finn Balor, I don't think he's going to win the match. I think NXT is going to push Balor into the next stage. I think the next competitor to challenge him for the NXT Championship is going to be Karrion Kross.
Lyle?
Yeah, I think it's very obvious where they're going. Kross Balor is going to be a huge match, and I think they're going to put that on Mania. And
that'd be awesome.
There's zero chance that they're going to pass it up and do Dunne Kross next. It's not going to happen.
I tell you this, though. I'm curious because you're hearing rumors that they could bring back the Demon character for Mania against Karrion Kross.
That would be insane.
I don't know. I
hope not.
I think there's. So here's the thing. I love Finn Balor. I like the demon character, and I don't like it. There's times when I think they overindulge it when it's not necessary, and then there's times when I think they should use it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the match against Karrion Kross at WrestleMania, because listen, you may not like it, Lyle. The fan base loves the character, and it draws, and it's a money grabber. And I think that's something that you have an opportunity to have that demon character against Karrion Kross at WrestleMania. You can't tell me that Vince McMahon's not intrigued by that idea, because he knows, and Triple H knows this too. That's a money draw, but those two in the ring together, if you have that kind of character.
But that's not anything about what his character is anymore.
It's not, but that's why it comes and goes.
That's why I think it'll be horrible. He's not the same guy.
It would never be her. If Finn Balor, Karrion Kross, you would never be her.
It doesn't fit. It's not who he is anymore. He's his Prince Devitt character now. If he's gonna do face paint, he can't do the demon. That's not.
I think there's times when it can work. I think there's times where it still can work. And look, it's a money draw. That's the point. It's gonna make the money. It will make the money. You may not like it. It's not who he is, but it makes the money.
It doesn't fit him.
It makes
money.
It doesn't
fit him. It will never work.
You can't say it doesn't work, because guess what? If he sells merchandise with that, then clearly it works.
You can't do one character for all this time that he's been on NXT and then change it back to his old character just for WrestleMania. You can't do that.
Look, hey, listen. How many times?
That's like Kenny Omega having a big match and going to his Just Elite version instead of the cleaner version just for one night, and then going back to being a heel.
I'll tell you this: if the merchandise sells, clearly it worked. That's what it comes down to, man. It's all about money. This business is all about money. You may not like it, but that's what it's all about.
I hate that idea.
I hate that idea.
I don't think they should do that.
It's all money. Listen, the match would still be good because it's Balor versus Cross, so it really doesn't matter.
Yes.
I can care less. Who cares? Whether he's dead, whatever, it doesn't matter. But
and Josh,
well, in New Japan, he would come out with he came out a couple times as the Joker, like the Joker face paint.
Yes.
So if he did something similar to that, I think that would be cool.
Good possibility. And who knows? Maybe Cross has his other character that he did too, where he did the face paint as well. We don't know. But you were going to ask me something, Alex?
Yeah, I was going to get your thoughts on Kushida versus Johnny Gargano, because we saw this week on Wednesday, Johnny Gargano was pretending to be out of the match. He was trying to get himself out of this main event matchup, and William Regal was not having any of it. And we saw Kushida come out and get into a confrontation with Gargano. And then we saw Johnny get back up, so obviously he's not hurt. This is an angle, and I'm very, very interested to see where this angle goes at Vengeance. I think Kishida versus Johnny Gargano is going to be a close matchup. It's going to be hard hitting. It's going to be fast. It's going to be brutal, because Kushida he's come a long way from when he first appeared in NXT. This is probably the biggest matchup he's going to have.
Well, I tell you this, I think it's going to steal the show, and I think it should steal the show when you have two of these guys like that are very similar styles in the ring together. It should be the best match. I actually think Kushida's going to win this match. I agree. I think they're going to give him this North American Championship run.
What I think, and I want to disagree with you for a second, Alex. I don't think he gotten better. I think they're just doing what he did in New Japan. He's a New Japan character now, which they didn't do that at first, and I don't think they knew what to do with him.
No, they didn't know what to do with him. But now they have an idea.
Which he did in New Japan, and they're letting him do that, and that is why he's finding this success. Not because he has grown. Not that he hasn't. I don't want to discredit him. They're just letting him do what his best character is, and showing his New Japan character, which is the right move.
And let's do one more, because we got to do a little AEW really quickly. We only have a few more minutes left. We'll do the tag team match. The Grizzled Young Veterans are going up against
MSK.
MSK. I think they're going to let MSK win this match. I do. Although I don't think this is the end of the road for the Grizzled Young Veterans. I think they need to listen. This is going back when Lau and I did Takedown Breakdown, and this is going back with you, Alex, when we started. I think when we first started doing Off the Mat, and at the end of Takedown Breakdown, Lyle, the tag team division in NXT was stacked. It was really good. And now all these tag teams have been moved. It's gotten very stale. Mm-hmm. So they have brought in these new tag teams in, and they've gotten creative with some of these. They brought in MSK, of course, from Impact, Grizzled Young Veterans from NXT UK. They got Imperium, so they're trying to bring other teams from other brands and programs, which is the right call because look at all the tag teams that they've lost the last year. NXT, and they can't replace them with the skill that these guys have. So I'm going to go MSK in this one. Lyle, who you got? It's going to be a good match.
It's going to be a great match. I think the right call is, first off, who are the tag team champions?
The tag team champions.
I don't even think I saw them on the show. Like in
It's Oney Larkin and Danny Burch.
Yeah, it's Oney Larkin and Danny Burch.
Okay.
Which, by the way, is another good tag team. By the way, that they.
I think, in my opinion, Grizzled Young Veterans would be a better matchup.
Agreed.
But I don't think they will go that way because that's heel versus heel. They're going to go face versus heel, and they're going to do MSK. They're pushing them. They're a new group. They're going to come in. I think they're going to win the titles, and they're going to go on a long run. But I would prefer Grizzled Young Veterans. I'm a big fan of them. I think they're great. I don't know if they're going to do that, and I wish they would, but I think MSK is going to win. Like you said, it's going to be a great match. I think the whole card's going to be great. And since we're going to AEW, I want to say I think the women's match is probably going to be the best match of the entire card. But, yeah,
with Martinez and
Martinez
Storm and Io Shirai, I agree.
And yeah, I think that's going to be the best match. But,
I still think Kushida Gargano is just too...
I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out.
Alex, what do you think? What are you thinking in this tag team match? And then if you guys want to give a quick thought on the women's match after, Alex, go.
So I think MSK, like Lyle said, they're going to be the tag team that gets pushed on to face the tag team champions. But it would make sense for the Grizzled Young Veterans to win, but it's probably not going to happen. I think they're going to go with MSK because they're new to the company. They're big stars that came over from Impact, like you said, Josh, and this would be a perfect chance to show the world what MSK is capable of.
For sure. And then in regards to the women's match, really quick, Alex, just give a name. Who do you think?
I'm gonna say Mercedes Martinez because.
Lyle? Oh, go Alex. Go first.
Because Martinez, she's gotten better. I like that NXT brought her back to the roster from Monday Night Raw when she was part of Retribution.
Gotcha.
I think that was a big mistake to move her to the main roster that quick. So bringing her back, I think, is going to give her more time to develop and really show what she's capable of because we haven't seen much of it.
Lyle, you said Io, right?
I think it's going to be Io, and I think Io's going to face, what's her name from NXT UK? I forget her. Shimada, I don't want to pronounce it wrong. Female wrestler from Japan. I don't want to pronounce her name wrong. I'm not good with some names, but...
Xia Li?
No. It was in NXT UK.
Oh, NXT UK.
Yeah, she's going to be... She's over there, yeah.
Yes, I think that they're going to do Io versus her at Mania, which Io said she wanted to do. So I think that's going to end up happening.
I don't know. Part of me thinks Toni Storm's got this. I don't know. I think they're going to push her to the moon. I think she's earned it.
So, let's take a second here. Alex has Mercedes Martinez. I said Io, and you said Toni Storm. None of us agreed.
That's beauty. That's the beauty of the show. Let's really quick. Let's do about a minute on AEW, and then we got to get to our finisher because we're going to go over the time. Let's just do about a minute or so. Lyle, what did we like about Dynamite this week?
I thought it was a fantastic show, and I want to take a second to really praise them for what they have done with the women's division. They have come a long way. It started off.
That's what Raj said too.
It started off being a shit show, and now it's way different. It's much better now. I think that the women's tournament is going to be a banger. I can't wait to see some of these matches on Monday. I loved the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match 2 weeks ago. I love the Layla and Rose match this week. I think Layla Hirsch is going to be a phenomenal stud for that company, and I can't wait to see where they go when Trish Statlander comes back finally.
Yep. Look, Alex?
So my favorite thing from AEW this week was we saw the interaction between Sami Guevara and MJF, and Sami said, if you let MJF push us around like that, I'm leaving. And he said that 2 months ago. And on Wednesday night, he said he's leaving the Inner Circle, and we saw Sami Guevara walking out of the arena, and Alex Marvez stopped him and asked like why he's leaving the Inner Circle. And Sami didn't answer. Sami just walked away, went through the gate, and that was it. So
it's a trick. It's a trick.
100%.
It's all a trick.
He's gonna come back next week, and he's gonna. I think he's gonna come back next week.
MJF is going to become the leader at Revolution. I am telling you all this. Guevara's gonna hug MJF. It's going to be a full 360 on it.
It's a full. They're trying to swerve us.
Planned. They're all going to turn on Jericho. It's going to be all planned. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great.
Oh yeah, it's going to be awesome.
The storyline's going to be great. I would imagine Jericho, I think, said he wanted to take some time off. I think for a little bit as well. Then he'll probably come back and have a feud with MJF. So we'll see. That's what I'm with the house now, and I'm intrigued by it. And wow, you too with the women's tournament.
I have another spinoff.
A spinoff.
I think what's going to happen.
How about a spin on?
Is that the Good Brothers are going to cost the Young Bucks the match next week against Proud and Powerful, and then it's going to be a Proud and Powerful versus Jericho and MJF at Revolution. And I think the entire Inner Circle blows up.
So then why do they do this then too? You do that, then you have the Good Brothers versus the Young Bucks at Revolution.
For the Impact titles.
That's what they should have done in the first place.
Exactly.
They should have done in the first. They should have had a title versus
that's
title.
What the plan is.
No, but they should have done
No. Those two separate matches are great. The Proud and Powerful storytelling.
Yeah, that's fine.
The Inner Circle blow up. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, that's true. I
love
that. No, I love that. I think it's an interesting. You know what? I think we should just call Tony Khan and say, "Hey, man, we got some great ideas here for you."
Hire us. Have to hire me.
Come on, man.
Push Josh away. Well, push Josh away.
Why are you pushing me away? Why are you pushing me away?
Because that was my idea. He's in the partnership with New Japan. He has a Young Bucks shirt on.
Do you know how many ideas?
We're together.
First off, do you know how many ideas I've had for WWE in the last few years that could have made them money? Are you kidding me?
But they didn't do it, okay?
Yeah, so therefore I deserve a raise in itself. I'm working for WWE. I'm working as a freelancer right now, as they say. Okay? Okay, just saying. Okay, so let's get to our finishing move. And again, we want to really quick thank Raj Giri for coming on today with us, the owner of Wrestling.com. He was awesome.
He was. He was
just
very
messaged
insightful.
Me, actually, he just messaged me and said, literally, he just messaged me saying thanks for having me on and everything like that. He was great. I mean,
he was
awesome,
phenomenal.
You know what I'm saying? Really is a good dude. But also, really quick, did we like the main event this week, or did we think it was a little
of what
of Dynamite, or did we think it was too much?
It's on NJPW World now, also.
Who was it that somebody said that they felt Kenta should have started a match as just a regular singles match? It shouldn't have been like an all falls count anywhere match. It should have just been like a regular one-on-one match.
The storyline's a lot better. I do want to say that it did a very good job of, at the beginning, of hinting at a future Bullet Club versus former Bullet Club match.
Mm-hmm. I
like that.
Well, that's what it should be.
I like that a lot. Also, I want to ask you a question, Josh. A little bit of trivia. We'll bring back to off-the-match trivia for a second. There were 4 people in this match, not counting Kenta.
Okay.
Not in this match. In this entire main event segment. 4 people. Who are they that returned to New Japan World once it came back on?
There were 4 guys that came back to New Japan World once it came back on. In the main event, you're saying?
In that entire main event segment, yes. Not counting Kenta. The 3 are obvious. The 3 are obvious.
Dude, it's been such a whirlwind week for me. I can't even remember what I did yesterday.
Jim Ross! He's back on New Japan World!
Is he really?
Yeah, he was commentating that match that they put on.
You're an idiot. You're an idiot.
Back on New Japan World.
You're an idiot. It was kind of weird to see it, because just think about it. All 4 of those guys were or are currently in New Japan. It's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird, and it's almost like it's awesome. I think it's between them working with AAA, Impact, New Japan, but it's like what Ross said though. You could bring all these companies in. The problem is outside of the bubble, a lot of these fan bases don't really know what these companies are. So that's
AEW started, and they were saying they were targeting hardcore wrestling fans. They were not targeting casuals. So I'm okay with them not getting these casuals. I want a program that's going to be a wrestling program, not a show for children like WWE. But the main roster, not NXT. I don't want that type of program. I want a hardcore wrestling show that's going to be a treat for everyone who's a real wrestling fan.
I agree. That's fair to say. Let's get to our finishing move now, guys. Alex, we'll start with you first. Your finishing move, my friend.
So my finishing move is the main event match for AEW Dynamite. I thought it was fantastic. I enjoyed how Kenta was able to turn direction that quick. Just shows how talented he is, and that was unbelievable to see something like that. The table spot.
It's a match out of his character, and he was awesome with it.
Yeah, he was
great.
Lyle.
I want to take a moment to wish Tommy Dreamer a happy 50th birthday. He's going to be facing Rich Swann tonight at No Surrender, and hopefully he beats the hell out of him. I hope he wins, and then we have Kenny Omega versus Tommy Dreamer in a hardcore match. I think that would be amazing.
Trying to think if I could do imagine John Moxley versus Tommy Dreamer in a hardcore match.
Oh my god!
Imagine Joey Janela versus Tommy Dreamer in a hardcore match.
I think Kenny Omega versus Tommy Dreamer for the Impact title in a hardcore match would be amazing.
Well, I have the micro brawler in my man cave, the Tommy Dreamer micro brawler. Then
you know what? I'll get a Kenny Omega micro brawler, and we'll make them wrestle.
I'm not 3 years old, so I'm not going to do that. My finishing move is, first off, I want to thank Raj Giri from WrestlingInc.com for joining us today. It was awesome, and really, there is so much. Like I said about 2 weeks ago, this is the best time to be a wrestling fan. You just had Wrestle Kingdom. Yep. You have the road to WrestleMania right now. And then in the next one, you got Revolution, but the even bigger pay-per-view, Double or Nothing, is right down the road. Is right after that in about May. So it's you're talking Wrestle Kingdom, WrestleMania, and Double or Nothing.
Yeah, and then WrestleCon's coming back to Tampa.
WrestleCon is coming back to Tampa, which is awesome. I think it's great. I'm sure you'll be there, Alex. Just be careful and wear a mask, please. Don't do anything stupid, and don't think you could get in the ring and start fighting with somebody. Okay, you'll get your ass kicked. All right, knowing you'll be a little crazy. Don't do that. All right.
Don't dress up as Scooby-Doo.
You don't dress up as Scooby-Doo either. But no, guys, today was awesome. Listen, again, we want to thank Raj for coming on with us. And, of course, we want to thank you, the fans out there, for lending us your eyes and ears for the hour that we were on. And, again, we have one more Saturday show next Saturday. And we have our special guest next week coming up. He is the former Ring of Honor television champion and the current #1.
Hello?
He is going to be joining us. He's going to be joining us next week on our final Saturday show right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I already know what it is, so I'm not going to divulge into it anymore.
It's good. It's good.
So that's going to be that. We will be off the last week of February. We will not be on the last week of February. We are going to start preparing to go live in prime time for 2 hours from 8 to 10 p.m. on Tuesday nights right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. And, of course, we want to thank Errol Marks for letting us do this. It's going to be a big boost for us. This is going to generate so much more for this program. We're only getting better every single week. We're doing great. Before we go, download our app. Okay, if you have an iPhone, go to the Android, type in WWSRN. If you have an Android, you go to the Google Play Store and you type in Worldwide Sports. You download it; it's free. You get our show schedule, all of the content, bios of the people the shows that we have on the program. You could get our free articles. You could rewatch clips from the show or re-listen. Now we're doing only audio clips now, so we're doing that. And you can re-listen to the show if you missed it. Also, don't forget, check out tonight on 103.9 FM Long Island LI News. Myself, along with Errol Marks, The Weekend Crunch. He's never pissed me off more in my life than what he did. It's really annoying.
I'll definitely check that out. I love him already if he pissed you off.
Well, it involves Trevor Bauer and what a douchebag he is. So there's that.
What did Errol say? I guess I have to listen, and you will too.
Well, you have to listen because basically, I'll say this really quick. Trevor Bauer under the rug takes a shot at the Mets, which is ridiculous because he sent out a BS apology during the Super Bowl. Which, by the way, could you have taken in any more wussy-like move? If you're going to send out an apology, dude, which, by the way, I didn't even want Trevor Bauer to begin with. Lyle, you know this.
Yes,
I didn't even want him. I did not want.
You tweeted a while back that if they didn't get Springer and Bauer, it was a failure.
Time out. So clearly you don't listen to the Weekend Crunch. The last month, I have said on that show, go back and rewatch the show and re-listen to it. Specifically, I have said I want nothing to do with Trevor Bauer. He's a head case, he's a drama queen, and he's somebody that won't be able to handle New York. The only way I would want Trevor Bauer is if he had the $30 million, not the $40 million. So clearly, Lyle, you need to do your homework more so, less than other people here, okay? So,
but you said you never wanted him, but you clearly did at one point want him.
I said I would take him if he wanted $30 million. Once I heard the $40 million, and you can ask Speedy Petey, I texted
you did say that, yes. I know you told me that, too.
I texted Speedy.
You told me that.
And when I heard the Mets gave him the $40 million offer, I said, and you can ask Matt Ratanini, you can ask him, too. I said to Matt, oh, my God, if the Mets, and the exact text was, and I have it, oh, my God, if the Mets give him $40 million, I think I'm going to shoot myself in the head. That is literally what I said. I wanted nothing to do with the guy. I think he's a clown. Clearly, he screwed up.
This is great radio, by the way.
He completely screwed up his social media, which, by the way, he even admitted he did for the so-called king. I mean, dude, this is the same guy that cut his finger during the World Series while playing with a drone. Okay? It's the same guy that did this. Clearly, the guy has an agenda of being...
Okay, we're 10 minutes over.
I don't care how much we're over. I can care less how much we're over. Okay? Let's see. Okay. Let's see. So here's the point-blank thing. The Dodgers better
Trevor Bauer is a douchebag?
No, the Dodgers better hope he's good. Otherwise, he's taking that $45 million option. And guess who you can say goodbye to if you're the Dodgers? You know who you could say goodbye to if you're the Dodgers?
Yes.
Bye-bye, Corey Seager. See you later. You think Dodger fans want that trade-off? Trevor Bauer for Corey Seager?
They have
I think
plenty of money.
Have you seen the luxury tax penalties that they're taking this year?
I have, yes.
It's astronomical. Astronomical. And you know what Corey Seager's going to ask for? Oh, they care when they have to pay Corey Seager $250 million. They're not going to be able to afford it, pal. That's what a luxury tax is called. It's called a tax. And it's not chump change. I can tell you that. Okay?
I very much know that.
Maybe Steve Cohen might give that chump change to a barista at Starbucks when he's going there for his coffee in the morning. Okay? But,
maybe he'll use it to buy more stocks to, like, screw people over on Robinhood.
Right.
Well, if you're going by what Dave Portnoy is talking about, then you're a clown because he actually proved to Dave Portnoy that he's an idiot. 1 and 2. The first thing Steve Cohen actually did when he became owner, before he became owner of the Mets, is he actually paid every single Met employee all their salary that they lost during the year, and he gave all of New York City over $4 million to all the local charities in the city before he became official owner of the team. You're right. So if you want to point out something for him helping out a friend, and by the way, he made all that money back last week at $1.5 billion, so he could say "kiss my ass."
Yeah, because GameStop crashed again.
Well, it is what it is, pal. That's what you help a friend out. Doesn't matter. That's what it's called, a hedge fund. Okay, we're done here. I've had enough. All right. Alex is like, what the hell is going on?
Let's get your dad to talk some crap about the Mets too, Alex. Come on.
Right, we gotta go for the. All right, guys. Like I said, tune in every Saturday. Tune in next Saturday, starting at 12 p.m. We have Shane Taylor joining us. You're not gonna want to miss. It's gonna be a great interview. For Lyle Gillen, for Alex Lowe's, I'm Josh Silverberg. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care. Stay safe. Have a good one, everyone. This is Off the Mound, the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.